Okay, so today we need to cover what a bond is and then talk about one type of bond today. So the electron cloud is what we're talking about when we talk about bonds. Electrons in the outermost level or shell are what are called valence electrons. The valence shell is the outermost shell of electrons. That's the only ones that are exposed to the outside. It's like your coat is the only thing that's exposed to the weather, right? Because it's the outside layer of you, just like electrons. So atoms tend to combine with each other in such a way that 8 electrons are going to be in the outer shell. Now, the first energy level we talked about yesterday holds how many? 2. And every level after that holds 8, okay, for this class. Okay. I know that can change in chemistry, but we only worry about the first 20 in biology, so I'll save all the fun exceptions to the rule for next year when you take chemistry. So when atoms combine, a force called a chemical bond is going to hold them together. Now there are different ways this happens, therefore there are different types of bonds. Now chemical bonds form between groups of atoms because most atoms become stable when they have 8 electrons in their valence shell. Everybody get out your periodic table. They call it periodic table because you use it periodically, right? And it's divided into periods, right? Oh, okay. So on the periodic table, look at that first row. Okay, there are how many elements in the first row? 2. Hydrogen, then we skip over to helium. What's helium's number? 2, right? So it has 2 protons and 2 electrons, okay? Because of that, helium is happy. It has a full outer shell. Helium is the one atom we're going to talk about whose outer shell is full at 2 because the inside electron shell holds 2, right? Let's go to the next row. How many atoms are in the next row? 8. Okay, so when I get to the end, that last atom has 8 in the outer shell. Is neon happy? Yeah, because it has 8, right? Everything in this last row has a full outer shell. It is completely non-reactive because it won't bond with anything. We call those noble gases. It's like the noble people of the medieval days wouldn't bond with the common folk, right? So they stay over here because they're all happy. They got a full wallet or a full outer shell. That's kind of how I think about the noble gases because they don't bond. You suck in helium, it doesn't bond with anything in your body. You just blow it back out. It does displace oxygen, and it isn't that great for you. It changes the pressure inside of your lungs. That's why you sound so funny. But it doesn't bond with anything inside of you. So when atoms of different elements combine, a compound forms. H2O, is that a compound? Yeah, it's 2 different elements. Okay. O2, is that a compound? No, but it's 2 atoms. That's called a molecule, right? Okay. So a compound is a substance made of the bonded atoms of 2 or more elements. It should say different elements would be a better way to define that. Today, what we are going to look at is covalent bonding. Covalent bonding is one way that atoms bond, and it's by sharing valence electrons to form what is called a covalent bond. Let me show you an example of what that is. Okay, here is hydrogen. Hydrogen has how many protons? What's hydrogen's atomic number? 1. How many electrons does it have? 1. So it has 1 energy shell. There's an electron. That's all it has, right? Is hydrogen happy? Everybody say no. No. So if I were going to make hydrogen happy, I would need like another hydrogen. This is just one way we can make it happy. So there's another one. Now, is this hydrogen happy all alone? No. What if they put their wallets together, their shells together, and they pretended like they each had what the other one had in that outer shell? Now they both feel like they have what? 2. And now do they both have an outer shell that's full? Yeah. So they became stable that way. That's called a bond, right? This specific type of bond is what is called a hydrogen bond. What I just showed you is what is called an atomic model, okay? Okay? The next one that you're going to draw is called the Lewis dot. Now the Lewis dot only looks at the electrons in the outer shell, so I don't have to worry about drawing more than one shell. I would just represent the ones in the outer shell. Now hydrogen's easy, it only has one, by a dot. And then I would show the bond between the two like that. Then there's this other thing called the structural formula. Please don't talk. And that just shows each covalent bond with a single straight line. Very simple. The symbol with a straight line for each shared pair of electrons. And then there's, of course, the chemical formula, the most simple form. And that is just where you tell me how many of each element you have. So we're going to do a lab in here, and we're going to do some activities today, but I'm going to ask for these four things every time. The atomic model, the Lewis dot, the structural formula, and the chemical formula. Okay? So a molecule is a group of atoms held together by covalent bonds. Was that an example of a molecule? Everybody say yes. Yes. Okay? So a water molecule, H2O, forms when an oxygen atom forms covalent bonds with two hydrogen atoms. Now, water is also a molecule. Let me explain to you why. It is covalently bonded. Okay? It's covalently bonded. That's how you identify a molecule from a compound. Now, I'm going to talk about ionic bonds, but not today. It'd be too much in one day. All right, I want to focus on just looking at our covalent bonds first. So I'm going to stop this recording, and then I'll start lab in a minute.